My name is Nicole Carter. I'm a part of the digital curriculum crew, and I also help support K through 12 literacy. My office hours are Tuesday and Thursday, 10 to 11. So if you have any issues as you're trying things out and you'd like some one-on-one help, just pop into those office hours and/or email me, and we can try and work something out if it doesn't fit within your schedule. Okay. So we're going to try and learn some very basics of Google Slides, and how I'm going to be focusing on like how to insert videos, how to maybe change some of the color features, how to add new fonts, how to make fonts bigger, how to add drop shadows, how to manipulate different shapes, and then also kind of making sure that you're introduced to some other options for different themes and exciting slide decks. All right, so it's a lot. Hopefully you have your slide deck available so you can manipulate it. Please let me know, or let Katie know if we need to send that out again. And I'll leave it on the screen a little bit because I just heard some people come in. So either click on the link in the chat, maybe Katie, give it one more time for people that just showed up, or type out this bit.ly that you see on the screen in a new tab window. And it is case sensitive, so you'll have to do capital letters except for the T on the end. Okay. All right, I think if I did this correctly, my version of the slide deck should kind of match your version of the slide deck, and I can kind of manipulate them as we're kind of walking through the slides. All right. Okay, so the first thing that I wanted you guys to do in your own version of the student slide deck is to go ahead and type here in the center. Let's just type test slide deck. And then what we're going to do is we're going to change the font. And then I wanted to talk a little bit about how we can easily manipulate the size of the slide, or not of the slide, the size of the font. So after you type in your slide deck, let's just go ahead and change the font. We're going to come up here to this top section. And if you don't have a lot of different fonts, then you can obviously click the more fonts option and then just start looking for things that you might want. And I'll show you real quickly up here at the top. It does allow you to kind of see different styles. Just know some of the handwriting ones, if we're thinking about kind of information design, some of the handwriting ones are hard to see. Okay, so Katie's saying make a copy and you should have your own slide deck if you're not getting to the student slide deck appropriately. If you see anything here, like I do not have Sacramento as a font in my library. So if I just click on it and it turns blue with that blue check next to it, now it's a part of my library. It'll show up on all of my Google Suite of tools. So you can get lost in this font slide deck area. Take just a few minutes, find some that you like. This one's kind of fun. And then we can change your font that way. So as soon as you kind of add those, just go ahead and click. Is there a way to do a split screen? That's a good question. On your device, is there a way to do a split screen? So you could pull out two different windows and resize them so that you can kind of see my screen and then you can manipulate your window. Another thing you can do on a Mac, if you press and hold, if you're using your teacher device, if you press and hold on the green button, it will automatically resize your windows for you. I'm slightly terrified of doing it right now as we're doing this Zoom, just simply because I want you guys to be able to see what I'm doing. But yeah, minimize or separate out the two windows so that you can see what I'm doing. Okay, perfect. Okay, I'm gonna keep going. So one thing that I use all the time, it was kind of revolutionary for me when someone taught it to me at a Google Slide session, was this trick of using Command Shift and then the greater than or less than symbols to resize your font. So I'm going to come back to this one and I'm going to highlight this test slide deck section. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down Command Shift, and then I'm going to press repeatedly the greater than sign or the less than sign. And just the reason I do this is just simply because it's really easy to press and hold and to get just the perfect size that fits on the screen. It's just easier than like having to come up here and readjust the font size constantly. Now this coincidentally works in almost any platform, whether you're using Microsoft PowerPoint or you're here in Google Slides. This same trick, I'm going to go back to the slide, Command Shift greater than less than is going to give you less or bigger sizes. So we can try this on this slide deck slide that you were given. So highlight the whole thing and just make it nice and big. So let's just say that this is like a writing prompt for students. So we're wanting it to be nice and big for them. So I'm going to just resize it. And then what I might want to do is I maybe want to go ahead. I think what I wanted you guys to do is actually duplicate this slide a couple of times. So to duplicate, you can either right click and then say duplicate side, or if you're a fan of hotkeys, which is kind of like what we did here, Command Shift greater than less than, a quick tip that I use all the time is Command D. So Command D actually allows you to duplicate objects or pages or really anything. If you have it selected, like this window of text is selected, it has the bright blue box all the way around it. If I hit Command D, then I get a duplicate of that text box. So at this point, to reiterate what we've done so far, we've highlighted and resized and maybe changed the font. You don't have to use the exact same font that I did for this one. Just find a font. It's more important to me that you know where to find different fonts and how to change the font. Now, as I change this to a different font, it's now wonky. So again, the other trick I showed you, I'm going to move my slide, is to go back to this Command Shift greater than less than, because this is now wonky on my slide. I'm going to fix it. We resized this font here and then duplicated the slide a couple of times because we're going to do different things with those slides in just a minute. Okay. Another thing that I wanted to show you really quickly in terms of like being able to manipulate the stuff that you have on a slide, when you don't have anything selected on your slide, this current one, all I have selected is something over here on the left navigational bar. Nothing is selected in the slide. My toolbar up here changes. So when I do that, I have access. How to choose a font one more time. Okay. So basically in any text window, if you highlight the font that you are, or the text, I should say, that you want to change, you're just going to come up here to this area in your toolbar, because see, again, the toolbar has changed because I've selected something on my slide deck. So on my toolbar, you might be seeing the word Arial because the default is usually Arial. So if you can find the word Arial and then you just pick that drop down menu, then you should see your series of fonts that you have in your library. And if you don't have as many as me, then what you would do is click on this more font area and then jump in, and remember, you can get lost there. There's so many to choose from. But once you go into more fonts, anything that you have selected with a blue check mark next to it is now added to your library. No need to save or anything. It just is automatically added. Okay. Continuing, if I deselect anything on my slide so that I now have a different toolbar up here at the top, I'm looking for background, layout, theme, and adding transitions. So you can easily change the layout of your slide deck even after you've added content to it, because I know sometimes people think that they have to do something different and you don't. You just have to deselect anything on your slide and then go here to layout and you can change a different option. You also have the ability to go into the background and change the color. So, or even add an image to the background. So let's first do change of color. So what we're gonna do is just, you know, pick anything. I don't really care what color you pick, but pick a color, and then that will then change your background. And as we kind of get better with our skills and a little bit more confident, I'm going to show you an even more advanced tool with changing the background color. So we'll come back to that again in a little bit. Another option is to add an image. So instead of a color, if you click the button, choose image, you can look for any image online or look for any image that you might already have. Here's one that is from a different slide deck. So let's pop that in and just see what it looks like. And I'll say done. Now, be careful with the image you add in the back, because then it might just start to look funky. And don't forget, you always have your undo buttons. So if you don't like that, you can change it. So again, to get to this unique toolbar, I don't have anything selected on my slide. But if you notice, as soon as I selected the text box, then my toolbar changes and I have more options. So if you want that background option, you just have to click off to the side, maybe click on the right hand or the left hand navigation and select slide 6 or something, like how I have my mouse over here and I've selected slide 6. That just means nothing is selected on my slide itself. And so then I have these different options up here at the top. Olga is saying she has a different looking screen. So are you in an edit mode? Maybe we'll throw again one more time the student slide deck into the chat so that you have access to that slide deck. You should be in editing mode. You should not necessarily be looking at this one necessarily, because this one is a whole different mode. This is a publishable to the web and it's easy for us to share with people, and it's not in edit mode, it's in like present mode. So we want to definitely be in edit mode. And then once we're in edit mode, then we have the ability to select things. And again, as soon as I select a text box, if you're in edit mode and it still looks different, you might have to resize your window just a little bit. Sometimes if the window is too small, you might have a different view screen up here at the top. And then I don't necessarily have time to do it right now, but Katie might be able to look for you. Sometimes when we accidentally hit like one of the F1, F2 buttons, we can minimize our view screen up here. I don't remember which one it is exactly off the top of my head. Oh yeah, that's what I was trying to say. Hide the menu, or try not to hide the menu. So like this button down here, if you are in a smaller view screen and you don't see everything, then look for your 3 dots in the far right. That will give you more options. And that might change as well. Okay, so I want to make sure that, okay, let's remove this subtitle box too. So I want to make sure that we know how to select objects, and I just want to move that and remove it. So all I did was press delete. Another thing that you can do is select an object, and you can right click and say delete. It just depends on what you're most comfortable with. I see a lot of people also will sometimes use these tools, then click up to edit. So you have options to delete there. But honestly, if you just select it and hit the back button or delete button on your keyboard, that deletes it too. All right, so coming back to this one where we've increased the size of the font and we've duplicated it a couple of times. One of my favorite tools is to add YouTube videos into my slide deck, simply because it just creates a way for kind of a more closed environment where kids aren't randomly going off into YouTube and then watching tons of videos and getting distracted. So if I'm making a slide deck that's a teaching tool, I'll embed videos straight into the deck. So one thing that I love doing, especially if I'm using a slide deck as like my daily agenda or to move kids through some specific project, what I will do is I will add timers into my slide deck. So what we're going to do is go up to insert, and then we're going to go to video. And then all I'm going to do is type out 10-minute timer. And there's a cool new feature that YouTube just added within the last couple of weeks that I really adore, and that is the ability to mute videos and to start videos at specific times within your slide deck. It's actually like an option for you. So I'm just going to pick that 10-minute timer, and as I drop it in, I get a little bit of this video playback option. And so again, you can tell it to start and to end at a specific time. And then my new favorite feature is to mute the audio, because some of these timers have crazy sound effects that I don't necessarily need or want. So I'm just going to say mute audio. And then I'm going to, just for sake of giving you a bigger screen, I'm going to hit the X out of there. And then I'm going to minimize this. I don't need it gigantic. I just want it as a timer in the corner. So if you've seen any of our slide decks as we've started webinars over the last week and a half, this is one of the tricks that we have in our waiting room slide, because we have like a little 5-minute timer down there at the bottom that we can start. Now, the videos now work in this area. If you just press play, the video will actually start playing, usually in the present mode. It works in the present mode, but then it usually also will work as you're editing. You can resize and change things. I have tried at some points to like hide them, and it doesn't work to hide them or to put like a image box over the top so that it's just like I'm the only one that knows that it's there. None of those tricks work. You do have to make it seeable. So as long as it's kind of small and tucked into a corner. Okay. Am I back for everyone? I'm hesitant to completely, okay. I'm hesitant to completely change my Wi-Fi access point just because I don't want to lose everyone. But if I'm back, then that should be good. Okay. Let me know if I have any other issues. So we've added this little timer video in the corner. I'm going to go to the next slide deck or slide. And then I'm going to show you another trick, because if you're like me and you like using music, so another option that you can do is, instead of the 10-minute timer, if there's a song that you know that you really like or that the kids like, what you do is, like, I'm going to do, this is the one I always use. It's not because she's like my favorite fan or anything, but I know it works. So I can take a song, and then if I put audio only, then what that gives me is usually a static image instead of a music video. So if you can imagine putting a music video in when you have a prompt like this, I'm just going to resize it. I don't want to restart it or do anything like that. I just want to use the video itself. So if you can imagine, I'm giving students this writing prompt, and then I want them to take the time to answer it. I can add in songs, could be classical music, whatever, and add in an audio only video. And then what that does is gives me a static image instead of a moving music video that can play while the kids are answering that prompt. And then it also kind of helps guide me. Okay, I think that's all I wanted to show you here. We actually don't need this particular slide, so I want you to try to delete that extra third slide. And boy, there are some things that I would like to still get to, and I see that we only have like 10-15 minutes left. Okay, wording for the audio only is literally just audio only. Type in the name of any song that you might want to add. So we'll go back up, same process, and it's just audio only. Whatever song you would like to look for. What's that one band that's like the string quartet? Katie knows what I'm talking about. There's this one band that does covers of popular music.
Vitamin String Quartet.
Yes, thank you.
I got you.
Yeah, thank you, Bodhi. Yes, okay, so yeah, I add these guys all the time too. But again, if you do that audio only trick, then that's going to provide you with just that image and sound only. Okay. So a couple of tricks I wanted to show you with just objects. So if you have the student version of this, you should have these little numbered objects. These are just images. And what we're gonna do is move the image up, move the 3 up for me. And I wanted to kind of point out some of these guidelines that should appear as you're dragging. Oh no, hold on. Wouldn't you know it? Pause for a minute. Okay, we're back. All right, so I'm dragging this image up to line it up with my other images. And you'll notice that as I center it, I get a red line that shows me, a red guideline that shows me that I'm centered. And if I move it in just a little bit more, I also get these little blue H's down below that show me that I am lined up exactly symmetrical with the other ones. Now there's other ways to go about doing this as well. If I highlight all of these, there's a couple of ways to do that. So what you just saw me do, I'm going to do it one more time. I move my mouse off to the side where there is no other objects. Sometimes that happens to be over in this gray area, which I haven't even talked about the gray area, and I should do that. Katie reminds me at some point that I should do that. Okay, so my mouse is over in an area where no other objects live. I am pressing and holding and then using my finger to move my mouse over and drag this kind of light blue box over what I want to grab. As I do that, it selects all of the objects in that area. Another way to go about doing this is click and highlight or select one of them and then hold down the shift button and tap the other objects that you would like to also move. That works really well in this instance, but sometimes when I have lots of different objects and moving pieces on a slide, it becomes really difficult to do that. Okay, so one thing you can also do once you have objects selected like this is to go up to this arrange feature. And we could move them so that they are centered on the page horizontally. Sometimes I forget what these will do. And so sometimes I will just randomly click them and I'll say, nope, that's not it. And I'll just do my undo button or Control Z. But why don't you guys go ahead and try that? So what I just did was I centered it on the page horizontally, and then I centered it on the page vertically, and now they're perfectly in the center of my slide. Another option with this arrange feature, oh my gosh, and I just realized I could show you something else that has kind of blown my mind lately, and I've been using it a lot. Okay. So you also have this option here with the align and distribute. So the distribute tool, if I were to do, let's do this. Okay, so I'm selecting all of them. So if I go to this one, it just aligns them horizontally so they're all evenly spaced. And then if I do them vertically, they're evenly spaced in a diagonal. So I don't know, just playing around with some of these. Some will move and do it exactly the way that you want them to. And just like I said, sometimes I forget what they do. And then I just am starting to click buttons. But just knowing that that's there, I think can be really helpful. Okay. The other thing that I just remembered that I wanted to make sure that I showed you was, let's say, I'm back to my test slide deck, but let's just say I have these all in lowercase and I want them to be capital. This is something that has been incredibly helpful for me lately. And you can, again, do this on any Google product. So as I highlight that, if I go up here to format, and then I go to text, and then I drop down here to capitalization. Let's say you typed something and you forgot that you had the all caps on, you can lowercase it, uppercase it, and then also title case it. So that might not be helpful for you, but I found many instances where I can highlight something and then just really quickly go up to format, text, capitalization, and title case and make my life a lot easier. Okay, I just had that came back into my brain as something that I do all the time, and I wanted to just make sure I showed that to you. Oh, another thing, going back to font, because this also sometimes can be an issue. If you are noticing that you like this particular font and you don't have it like you're in a couple of different fonts, maybe you've copied and pasted from many different slide decks and they all had different themes and you're using different fonts, but you want everything to look the same. If you highlight the one font that you want, and then you go up here to this weird paint roller. How many of you have ever just like said, what the heck is this thing for? I did, and I started playing around with it. So here's what you do. If you double click this, it now, if you notice, it now is kind of highlighted as if I've like depressed it. So now if I start highlighting things, so I'm even gonna go to another slide, it's still selected, and I start clicking on stuff, now I can start changing my font to be that same font across the board. Now, in this case, it's not something that I want on all of these slides, but here it would work. Okay, now to get out of that, you just have to click it one more time. So that just like, it's like a paint roller, it just copy and paste that particular formatting to whatever else you're doing. Okay. Sorry, I'm sorry that I kind of feel like I'm going all over the place, but there's like random things that will remind me of something. And I want to come back to it. And I just want to make sure I told you everything that I wanted you to know on this guy. Oh yeah, we talked about Control Z. Okay, good. All right, so what I want you to do here, this is another trick that I do, especially when using a slide deck for teaching. And it makes it so that it's, I don't have to click any buttons or do anything to go out to YouTube. I can just still stay in my slide deck. And so that is to insert a video from YouTube, but there's a couple of other things that I'm gonna do. So I love this jelly bean day in the life video. You can find any video, but this is the one I'm looking for. It's maybe, what do I want to say? Jelly bean days, maybe it's days. Here we go. The time you have in jelly beans. Okay, that's the one I'm using. Okay. Yes, Jenny, that makes sense. And I will definitely show you. Okay, so, and I'll try and, I'm looking at my time and I've hit 9:30, so I want to speed up. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm not going to change any of my video playback settings. I'm going to want to play it from the beginning to the end. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to resize it and I'm going to try and go as big as I possibly can. And then remembering the trick that we just learned with our guidelines, I try and center it. And when I know it's centered, I get the red guidelines for horizontal and vertical, and I leave it there. You now also know how to change your background color. So I always will change the background color to black, because then the video kind of seamlessly is a part of the slide. And then when I'm in present mode and I'm using this in class, I just play the video straight from here. So I don't necessarily have to full screen it. I don't have to jump out to YouTube. It's nice and big. Usually the video is not distorted at this point because it's in the slide deck that way. And then again, just aesthetically, by doing the black background, it just seamlessly is a part of the slide. So that would be my recommendation for adding YouTube videos into your slide decks. Okay, a couple of things. I wanted us to continue to practice duplicating shapes. So as we move to this, this other section with this triangle shape, let's just go ahead and duplicate that. Again, options are you can right click and, do I see duplicate on here? Maybe I don't see duplicate. You can, okay, so select it and you can go up here to edit and duplicate. But then I also, like I said before, really like using short keys. So I do a Command D and duplicate that. You can also copy and paste the image as well. So another thing that I wanted us to work on with shapes is I wanted to have us do some drop shadows and then also maybe changing the coloring. So if you are in a minimized kind of screen like I am, I do not see all of my options I have to click on the 3 dots for more options. And what I'm looking for is this format. So I add drop shadows to just about anything and everything where I can, especially if I'm making buttons for things. So I use this format options a lot. And I am selecting or have selected the triangle shape. And what I'm going to do is just checkbox this drop shadow. There's a lot more options within that. So as you can see, it now just has this little shadow. You can make the shadow more pronounced if you click this arrow. You can make like the shadow bigger. As you see, I just did there. You can change the shadow color. You can do all sorts of things. Another option or thing that I wanted us to look at was just our coloring. I tend to change the border color a lot, and we'll go to like transparent for most things. I also, how do you make those shadow settings apply to multiple objects? So remember when we were playing around with these numbers and we selected multiple numbers by either dragging our mouse over the things we wanted to select or selecting one and then pressing shift, holding shift and selecting all of them. And then I go over to format options, add that drop shadow, and now I have that drop shadow for multiple things. So in changing the color, I aesthetically like when this does not have the gray line around the shape. Sometimes the line is helpful to like delineate the shape or the object, but for the most part, I remove that line. So by doing that, I just clicked on it's next to the paint bucket. The pencil next to the paint bucket is your line. And I usually remove that line. But there are some instances where you can keep that line and you can even make it a bigger size to really call out the size of the shape. So that's the pencil right next to it. I'm going to remove the border color. And then in terms of the fill color, you can change it. You can add custom colors. You can even make it more transparent by using this tool down below. So now it becomes a little bit more see-through. This one actually is behind it. So I want to show you another trick on how you can move it forward. So I have this shape still selected. If I right click, then I can go to order and I can bring it to the front or send it backwards. You notice that they also have the hotkeys. So I actually use these hotkeys, Command Shift, up arrow and down arrow allows me to move it forward and move it back, or command plus the arrow button. So if I go command arrow, I can move it back and forth. So if I move it to the front, you'll see that because I made it more transparent, it is actually there. I'm gonna put the arrow back. It is there, but I've made it transparent so you can now see through it. I can add drop shadow too. Let's see what that does. If you make something drop shadow and it's transparent, then the shadow shows through the transparent color. So it doesn't help. You want to keep it like more to a solid color. Okay, then this is a more advanced piece, but this is again also something that I use more often than I would think to. And Katie, if you can do me a favor and drop the link, it's attached to the image, drop the link into the chat. But basically what we are doing here is we have an image. You should have this on your student copy. So we have this image, we know and love Kahoot. It's got this like purple thing. And maybe I want this nice and big, but I want it to blend into the background, but I don't know what this purple color is. So what I have installed is this extension in my Google Chrome. So this is one of the reasons why Google Chrome is so great and the best browser out there. No, not Kahoot. I want the Color Pick Eyedropper extension. So what it is I have it right here. You see, it's in my lineup. It's one of the ones that I use the most. So what I do is this extension, I've added it to my Chrome. It shows up wherever I open up Chrome. But what it's going to do is as I select it, it gives me these little crosshairs. It might not like what I'm doing right now. I hadn't even thought about that, but it doesn't seem to like what I'm doing. Oh, that's a bummer. I want the crosshairs. There we go. Give me the crosshairs. There we go. Okay, good. All right, we got there. All right, so what it's giving me is it's allowing me to jump into any of the colors of the images that I'm currently seeing. And I want to steal this purple Kahoot color from this image. So what I'm going to do is use this extension, and all you have to do is just add it to your Chrome. And I'm clicking on the color, and then I'm just going to copy. I know this is a little advanced feature, and it might be something that you never use, but I use it all the time. So I just wanted to make sure I showed it to you. I'm just going to color this number, digit, letter code, and then I'm going to hit the X button out of there. We've already talked about how to change our background color. So I'm going to go into my background. I'm going to select the color drop down, and I'm going to come down here to where it says custom. And this is where you paste that code. All of a sudden, it's the Kahoot purple. Oh, this image is a little bit funky. So I'm just cropping the image a little bit, and now it should disappear. That's funny. Okay, so there we go. So that's that color pick eyedropper extension. To access it, again, it is right next to my web address. All of these are extensions. These all do unique and interesting things like what we just saw. And it's this little guy. This one is by far one of my favorites. There's a couple out there that do the exact same thing. But basically, it's so I can just color pick anything that is on the screen. And yeah, you just have to be careful with that, with the crosshairs, and make sure that you get the crosshairs exactly on the color that you want. But as you see, as I'm on this color pick icon, it's picking up any of the colors, and there's small little changes depending on where I'm hitting in this rainbow, right? Okay. So that is change. Okay, so then the last thing, oh, two things. We had someone that wanted me to talk about, uh-oh, my internet is causing issues again. Hopefully I'm back for everyone. Another thing I wanted to talk about was you mentioned how do you share? Okay, so when I have been leading these webinars, I've been sharing this version of a slide deck where it is just presenter mode and you don't see anything else, and it helps with bandwidth. Actually, it helps that we don't have to like load the whole slide deck and editing tools, and it's a good way to share out a slide deck with someone. And the way that we go about doing that is going up here to file. Oh, and now that I think about it, there's a couple of things I can show you here too. And if you need to leave, feel free to leave, but sometimes randomly things come up that I think about. So let's say that I wanted this slide as an image. Like maybe I want to give the students access to a slide deck in Seesaw or in Canvas, and I want just to put an image, and then I'll say, click here for the slide deck or something. That's what I'm envisioning. I use images from my slide deck all the time. So all you have to do is select the slide that you want, or you can do multiple slides. And then what you're going to do is you're going to say, download as a JPEG. And then what that's going to do is just grab this slide as an image. And now you have access to that as just an image that you can pop anywhere. So if I go upload from computer, where did it go? Here it is. Okay, so I cut out during that. So what you have to do is select a slide, you go to File, and you go to Download, and then you select JPEG. And then what that's going to do is download a picture image of that particular slide or multiple slides. Okay. So that's, and so then this is an image that I just stole from slide number 13. So I do that all the time. Okay, the other thing we wanted to talk about was this option. So going down to where it says File, and then where it says Publish to the Web. And then you want to say, down here, I've already published this one. So down here, you'd say, yes, start publishing. And then it will pop up with another little dialog box saying, are you sure? And you just say, okay. And then this is the link that you would then give to everyone. So this link, if I pop it into a new window, is the slide that it's just like presenter mode without anything else, right? So that is File, Publish to Web. Okay. And then Bodhi's on the call, so I wanted to give a shout out to Bodhi, but Bodhi shared this with me last night. She said one of her teammates used a hand-drawn piece like this and then put text boxes over the top of it as a part of a slide deck to students so that the students could then fill in over the top of the image. So I think that that's really wonderful. And what I think that they were building an actual like student reader's notebook or journal. So I have one that I made earlier in the school year. And so we'll go ahead and drop that in the chat for you too. I've got it, Katie. So I put an example reader's notebook in there, and I just wanted to show you kind of even more, just to kind of blow your mind. Google Slides is something that I'm starting to use more and more and more, and getting out of Google Docs, because you can set it up as different sizes. So for example, if I go into File and you go down here into Page Setup, so I am in the custom version, and I've set it up to be the same size as a piece of printer paper. So at any time you can go in and change your custom setup size and make it portrait or landscape or whatever. Most of the time, if I go into here, the default size is widescreen. So all you have to do is just click down here into custom, and then you can start manipulating it and changing it into lots of different slides and sizes. So in this reader's notebook version that I just put in the chat for you, you can kind of start to see, and this is something also that I didn't even talk about, the gray area off to the side of the slides, you can put stuff in and manipulate. It's kind of like your drafting area, if you will. So depending on your view screen, so if you remember the paint roller we used recently, the magnifying glass, if you go and downsize that and change, you can zoom in and zoom out. And if you zoom out, so this is at 40%, you can start to see these like gray outer areas. And I'll go down to another section. So I'm giving instructions to students off to the side. I'm also, you can do like drag and drop options. So labeling an image, so put an image here and then drag and drop an arrow into different things. Not allow me to change without permission. Tell me what you're saying there. So if you're seeing this as a view only, then all you have to do is click File and go to Make a Copy, and then say Entire Presentation, and then it's a copy in your Google Drive that you can edit and change to your heart's content. Anytime you're given something where it's view only, all you have to do is go to File, Make a Copy, and then it's yours to edit. You don't have to request edit changes. Okay, so yeah, just a few other options. So you can label stuff. You can give them options for doing captions. Again, you can do kind of movable vocabulary. You could make this ahead of time, right? You could type in different vocab and then tell them what the categories are for them to sort. Just all sorts of different options and ways for you to manipulate within Google Slides. I'm just kind of going through what we have here, because I think, again, it just shows you how crazy and manipulative this can really be. You also can hyperlink within a document or within a slide deck. So I'm kind of giving students the option to do that here or to remind. So let's say they're using a table of contents and you have them do a diorama or you have them do a vocab check. So I can write the word vocab. We didn't really talk about hyperlinking, but I highlight the word, and then up here in my toolbar area, I should have, but I don't see. Oh, here we go. It looks like a chain link, and I can click that and I can paste to any website, or notice how it says slides in this presentation. So I can click that down arrow and I can find, you know, the specific slide that I did my vocab sort on and then apply it. So now as I'm in my interactive journal, I can go to my table of contents and then instantly go to slide 12, right? So that would be a good tool, I think, to teach students how to do, for sure. That hyperlinking.
Sorry to interrupt. Can you hear me okay?
Yes,
We had a good question in the chat about when you publish this to the web and send out that link, is that gray area visible?
It is not. So the whole point of like publishing to the web and sharing it out as that platform is it makes it easier for you to load. Like if you're having bandwidth issues, it's a faster load time for some reason. I probably should know why, but I don't. So it loads faster. It cuts out all of that gray area. It cuts out your speaker notes. It just makes it so that people can move through, you know, forward and back. I think they also have the option to like change specific. You might be able to get to the speaker notes now that I'm thinking about it. Yeah, you can open the speaker notes, but you don't get that gray area because that gray area is only visible when you're in the edit mode. Okay. Any other options? I think I've kind of run out. Oh, and then, I also wanted to talk a little bit about Slide Carnival. And I think I put it on your example. Where do I have that? Hold on a second. Let me find all of my windows. Let's put it here. I'm not sure if I did, but I thought I did. Just trying to look and see what you guys have. Nope, I didn't. Okay, my bad. So I wanted to mention 2 different websites, and that is Slide Carnival or Slides Carnival. Oops. I don't know why, but I moved it out of the way. Okay, so Slides Carnival is fantastic. And basically, it just gives you lots of different themes that you can then choose from. And let's say I like this one. Ew, poor choice, poor choice, poor choice. Let's pick this one. Okay. So let's say I like this guy. If I would like to move it into Google Slides, or it actually is also a PowerPoint too, but let's just say I want this as a Google Slides theme. All I have to do is click that button and then say use as template. And then now it downloads into my Google Drive and I have this beautiful Google slide deck with themes. And then it tells you all sorts of fun things that you can do. Slides Carnival is just a website. I have it bookmarked somewhere in here. This one, this guy. The other one, if you've ever heard of Canva, Canva also has presentations. It's not a Google slide, but if you're wanting to go outside of the mix, like maybe you've exhausted Slides Carnival, Canva is another option to go and look at and get different slide templates. So, Katie, other questions? I think the reason I thought of Slide Carnival too is because on almost every single Slide Carnival deck, they give you a page of these fun icons. And sometimes they're in different kind of like hand-drawn styles or whatever, but they're vector graphics, which just basically means you can take them and just copy and paste them and then resize them. And you might distort the shape itself, but it never becomes fuzzy or you know, hard to see no matter how big you make it. And then you can also change the color of them. And
Nicole,
those are pretty fun.
We did have a question.
Mm-hmm.
We had a question about voiceover.
Uh-huh.
Is there a voiceover option?
There isn't a
Can you show the
voiceover.
voiceover option? Yeah.
You can add audio. So if you recorded a voiceover option on a different platform, you can add in that audio at that. That's like a workaround, but it does not have some of the things that have been a part of like Microsoft PowerPoint forever, like adding in sound effects and music and that sort of thing. They do not have in Google Slides.
Okay, we also have a question about when you publish your slide deck and then you make changes to the original slide deck, does that update in that published slide deck?
Oh, yes, it does, almost instantaneously.
Another question is animated GIFs, and where are you getting those?
Yeah, if I'm looking for a GIF, I just pick a keyword and I type GIF, honestly. So I know Teresa's the one that asked that, and I know I used a GIF recently that she really liked, which was this like cat one. Let me see if I can find it. Oh, I used this one recently too, mic drop. So oh, am I not in that one? Can you guys not even see that I just added that? I'm in the wrong window. My bad. I used this one recently, this mic drop GIF. So if I go into the Google Omnibox and I just type like mic drop GIF, then you see images of different things and you can find exactly what you want. So as long as you're adding that GIF section, I'm hesitant to do too much on here because I don't necessarily know what's going to pop up while I'm recording this webinar. But yeah, I just randomly start searching for things. If I notice, like if I see something online that's like a funny meme or something that I know the kids would really like, then I just automatically will go and find it and save it. I do like a lot of like writing GIFs, again, because of my like ELA background. Now, the thing with GIFs that I think is kind of important to know is that you can't copy this and paste it into a slide deck. You actually have to save the image. So if you find a GIF you like, then you have to right click and say save image as, and then say, you know, write pink or something, I don't know. But then as long as I save it that way, and then I go back into upload to computer, I can find that GIF and drop it in. So you do have to save it. And the reason I say that is because if I were looking for not a GIF and just a typical like image, if I like let's say I like this one, for images, I just have to copy and paste. But be careful, right? Like we want to teach good citizenship on just like stealing images off of the internet. So that's kind of why I really, really like using like the Slide Carnival embedded icons where I can, because you're allowed to use them. Otherwise, a great option to make your slide decks look lovely is to use the website Unsplash. So these are all free to use. So let's say I write the word write. Then I've got all of these lovely images. Like I really like this one. And I can download this and pop that in to my slide deck and know that that's a free and safe image to use. Another option in terms of like looking for images just within your Google image search, just a good rule of thumb is tools. I forget where they put it sometimes. If I go to tools and then I go to usage rights and I change it to, I mean, in this instance, you might change the image. I change the image usually, but you're not making money off of this. So any of these options would work. Your non-commercial use, you might be modifying, but like, so this is a free image. So that's great. So I can grab that and move that into my slide deck. So there you go. So Slide Carnival gives you all of these great icons that are easy and quick to use. And then Unsplash is a great place for really high quality, good looking photos that you can use in your slide deck. Okay, Katie, anything else? Because
Yes,
look,
we
I
had a
went
question.
way over time, and I'm super stressed about that.
A platform to record audio recommendation.
You know, honestly, I find just because I always have my phone with me, I record using my phone. I will just do the voice, and it's on your Mac too. The same platform is on your Mac. So it's if I just type voice memos, right, using the voice memo app, voice memo is also on your Mac as well. So it's just a quick, easy way for you to create an audio file, and then you just dump that into Google Drive, and then you can embed it, or you can insert. I think you can insert. You might be able to insert straight from. Let's see, can you insert? Yeah. So look what I'm seeing as I say insert audio. I have to upload the audio to my drive before I can put it in my slide deck. So I can't just find it off of my computer. I have to move it into Drive. So that's an important piece. All right. I actually have another webinar that I need to prep for. So if we have more questions, let's get those going. Otherwise, I will stop the recording and we'll kind of peace out. There's so much you can do in Google Slides. We've just tapped the surface. Again, office hours are constantly throughout the week. So if you start trying something and you don't know how to do it, jump in those office hours or send us an email. I would honestly prefer the office hours because then we can jump into your document or share screens. And that's usually easier to understand the issue or problem than having to do it or communicate over email.